Felt like an old friend. I did it. It feels good to don the cloak of levitation, becoming master of the mystic arts again. And I did it once before in Spider-Man No Way Home before this movie, so it felt kind of very familiar. Although, everything's evolved, including the costume in this one a little bit.
When I first found out that I was going to be in Doctor Strange, I didn't at the time know what capacity. The first time I learned about the script, however, when it was orally pitched to me, I was terrified. It felt like it felt like something I never guessed would happen, and I was excited by the challenge.
Well, I came back to direct because I really loved the character of Doctor Strange. I got a call from Kevin Feige at Marvel saying that the original director had fallen out of this film and that they were looking for somebody and would I come in and meet. And I had taken a lot of time off trying to refresh myself and develop a new vision for things, and I felt hungry and ready to make the movie. So I went ahead and took the meeting and we were off and running from there.
I love the scrubs. They're very comfortable. It was great to be back as Dr. Palmer. I love the character and was interested to see how it could develop further and how her relationship with Doctor Strange could develop further. I myself was curious about where they wind up. So yeah, it was really nice to come back and have some action to do this time outside of the emergency room. Yeah, it was exciting.
Well, Sam Raimi and I sat down together in February 2020. We both came on at the same time when we were taking over from the previous writing and directing team. And we, at the time, were trying to hit a kind of imminent production deadline. And there was an initial race to quickly rewrite a version of a script that we had, which seemed impossible. And then halfway through the 3-week process of doing that, the COVID pandemic began. And our production pushed several months into the end of 2020. And so then Sam and I had an opportunity to look at each other and say, okay, what do we want this movie to be? If we had a chance to start over from scratch. And so he and I developed a vision for what our version of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness could be. And we brought that to Kevin, and he was really excited. And Sam and I worked together in lockstep over the rest of 2020, bringing that to life.
Doctor Strange brings his own epic level of storytelling visually to the MCU by the nature of being a sorcerer, let alone when he's a gateway character to the MCU's next phase through the multiverse. So it's a very potent combination. And I think it's interesting to see someone as confident and as all-knowing and sometimes all-powerful as he seemed to be not only unfounded by mistakes in Spider-Man No Way Home, but also in this one becoming the pupil again in many ways, and evolving from that experience to being a different Doctor Strange. It reveals things about himself, it reveals other versions of himself, and all of this feeds into a really already rich, complex, humorous, arrogant, funny, anarchic, chaotic, humanly frail superhero. And it spices things up and takes him in directions and stress tests him in a really positive way.
I think opening up the multiverse is going to create bottomless stories and storytelling. Not just for the characters themselves being able to become different versions with different circumstances of themselves, but also with story. I feel like it's an amazing opportunity, and I have no idea where it's going to go, but I hope I'm a part of it in some way.
I love the MCU movies because I think that they're wonderful blends of drama, first and foremost, but humor and heart. against the backdrop of great sci-fi action. And I think that's why they have such broad appeal. And so when you're coming in to write an MCU film, you want to make sure that you're doing justice to that. And so part of it is, you know what the tone of an MCU movie is when you write it, and you know that in a lot of ways you're kind of writing an action comedy with a lot of heart. In this movie, we were going to be introducing some real horror elements for the first time to the MCU, and really trying to make what was in a lot of ways a suspense thriller. And that was exciting to me, and I think that the best horror movies, the best thrillers, are those scary moments are broken up by great moments, great laughs, great moments of levity that then you got the rug pulled out from under you and suddenly you're scared again. It's just a fun way to keep the audience off balance.
Dark. The tone is dark. The tone is probably the darkest Marvel film to date. I think I can say that with full confidence. It's probably the most frightening as well. And story-wise, I think the most complex and enriching, and one of the most epic as well. But I think the tone is very much that of a Sam Raimi horror and a Sam Raimi action movie, superhero movie, I should say. You know, he's got very good pedigree in that, let alone in this, but obviously in Spider-Man 2. And I think fans of his, the schlock horror elements, the jump scares, as well as where he likes to take his heroes, will definitely see a lot to enjoy in this film. Journey he goes on this film definitely results in him learning that he's better off together than he is alone, stronger together than alone. And I think the arrogance that carried him both as a surgeon and as a sorcerer, of thinking he had to hold the knife, he had to be in control, and that he could control everything, is really undone in this, with spectacular effect, as you'll see.
We find Wanda living in isolation. I think after the experience she's had, the best way for her to grow was being okay to be alone with herself. She's gone through the Marvel universe, having her brother and then having Vision, and now she's on her own. And to find that strength within herself is where we find her. And that happens to be a beautiful cabin with some land that she takes care of.
We do see my character moving on with her life. Yes, she has thrown in the towel with Doctor Strange a little bit. It was time. No, I think at a certain point, I think she would do anything for him, but she also couldn't be a doormat and wanted a team player, wanted to know she was part of a partnership rather than, an afterthought some days.
How's it been being Sorcerer Supreme? Well, it's been 6 years and I finally got the promotion that I deserve. He went from the no-nonsense librarian, now he's the no-nonsense Sorcerer Supreme with the greater responsibility there. Yeah, so feels good.
Yeah, America Chavez can punch and kick portals, star-shaped portals that allow her to travel between universes. And, she's got some trust issues, not gonna lie. And, throughout this movie, we get to see her kind of get through that and, let people in. But we definitely share some things in common, of course. We're both strong and we're resilient. When the world is kind of coming to crush you, we're still going.
I was really excited to get to introduce the character of America Chavez to the MCU. She's a fierce, brash character in the comics who is much older than the version of the character that we ultimately rendered and introduced in this movie. And so it really became, for us, in telling the story of a 14-year-old America Chavez, this was her origin story. And you're seeing in a lot of ways how is this character gonna become the America that maybe people who are fans of the comics know and love. She's still figuring out what her powers are, how to use them, reckoning with the trauma that she's endured because of them. And so we worked hard on that and worked with Xochitl Gomez, the tremendous young actor who plays America, to build that character together.
America's relationship with Wong and Doctor Strange is a little untrusting. You know, she does have trust issues. So at first she's kind of like, I don't know about you guys are weird. But then towards the end she kind of slowly lets them in.
Doctor Strange's relationship with America Chavez, without giving away too much, is a very interesting one, and it's one where the power shifts a lot. She may be young, but she's got experience of something that he doesn't, which is the multiverse. And they help each other. It's a pretty simpatico relationship by the end. There's some arrogance on both sides, but they have their clashes, they have their moments, but they definitely, by the end, make a very, 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 very powerful team.
I've been so lucky to have such incredible arcs within my journey in the MCU. It started with someone who is angsty and angry but had a very clear perspective, who really thought she knew what she believed, and it was turned upside down. And she keeps going with it. She keeps getting knocked down, and then she has so much loss, and then she grows from it, and she tries to continue, even though that's very difficult. I've been surprised how well I've been utilized so far up until WandaVision. I took up a lane. Paul and I always talk about how we took up the lane of sincerity, love, sadness, grief, and then with WandaVision, it became this whole other three-dimensional experience with the character that I never foresaw, and I feel very grateful that I'm continuing this journey.
Well, I had to figure out what made her different, and sort of make her different enough that it was unsettling, unnerving, that you think maybe you are with the old Christine, you are with the other Christine, the emergency room Dr. Christine, and then you realize you really, really aren't. So it was kind of walking that fine line of keeping her recognizable, but making sure there was like a chilling difference between them, and that her experience in life was very different from the other Christines, and her outlook on Doctor Strange is very different.
When I met with Marvel and our writer Michael Waldron, my main goal was to be true to the previous Marvel movies that have come before, to understand where those characters were and what the next step in their growth would be. And that's really what I used to guide the working on the screenplay for this particular picture. I wanted it to please the fans, and I thought that was the best way to do that.
When you're telling a story that features alternate versions of many well-known characters, it's important to not just do the kids show cartoon version of the multiverse, which is to say, if I meet a variant of myself from another universe, they're just the opposite of me. Everything they do is the opposite. Their life is the opposite. In building the alternate universes that we visit in this movie, I realized that for them to feel authentic, they really had to be lived in real places with their own histories and their own populations of characters, their own essential MCUs that have been going on that we just haven't seen. And that extended to the characters as well. These are, they're not caricatures. They're real alternate versions of our characters who have real lives, and our characters are colliding with them in the middle of those lives. Much the way that you saw Tobey's Spider-Man and Andrew's Spider-Man collide with Tom Holland's Spider-Man in No Way Home. And so it's just about investing in the multiverse and in variance as a real human concept and taking it really seriously.
The multiverse is a universe just like our own, but an infinite number of them that exist just in a atomically thin line. They exist simultaneously to our own, invisible, but they're there nevertheless. Well, in describing the multiverse filmically, there was a tremendous amount of art direction and design that had to go into it. What would differentiate our universe from the next, and the next, and the next? And we decided that each universe would have to have its own look and feel. Where would it come from? What would the buildings look like? It started with determining what the society was like. Was it an orderly society? If so, perhaps the buildings would be flatter, less expansive, less dramatic, more orderly. Same with the colors. Maybe that color palette would be toned down in accordance with this orderly world. So we made a lot of decisions in the art department, production design, wardrobe, and photography, the choice of lenses and colors that we would use, what light would be filtered how. And we defined through all these different tools of filmmaking the different looks of the different universes. Most of it was practical builds with props and wardrobe, but the extensions had to be done digitally.
Sam Raimi brings Sam Raimi to the film. This is a Sam Raimi film. It just happens to have my character and a shit ton of others and a bit of madness in a multiverse.
Having Sam Raimi direct this film couldn't have been a more perfect match. I think he brought so much of his background and his career to this film with how he uses camera and lenses to manipulate timing, to manipulate his audiences. But he also, contrary to how disturbing some of his films are, not all, but some, he is so kind and sweet and open-minded and generous with ideas, generous with collaborating, and truly just a sweet, good person. And I really enjoyed getting to work with him, getting to know him, getting to pick his brain about lenses. I feel like I did get to learn a lot from him, and I really enjoyed it.
I mean, Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi.
He was so collaborative and sweet, and I honestly just wanted to do my best for him. He made me feel like I should always do my best.
Yeah, same. You know, a legend in his own right in two genres of horror and superhero-dom.
Yeah.
And here he is helming ours. Is perfectly bespoke, suited for him. Yeah.
I love working with Sam Raimi. He's also very playful and very fun on the set. I guess it makes sense, to dream up all that scariness and that horror, and he sort of exercises that on the screen and in his work. And so in life, he's actually quite light and fun, and he's so humble. So there's a lot of collaboration. But I just loved that he would bring us into his mind's eye, and his storyboards were always available to us on set. There was no question you couldn't ask him. You have a lot of questions in these kinds of movies, a lot of threads you're trying to keep a hold of. And so he always had the time to, and he's so busy. He's got stuff coming at him from every direction. It's a big job directing a film like this, and he always has time for his actors. So it was great.
Working with Sam was a dream come true. He's an absolutely delightful guy and such a generous collaborator, just a master at hearing ideas and synthesizing the best of everybody's input. And he's really unflappable. His endurance is inspiring, and when things were tough, you could always look to Sam, who would smile and crack a joke and make you feel like everything was going to be okay, and that's what you want out of your leader, and he was a real example in that way, and so it was, working with Sam was highlight of my career.
It was great. From Michael Stuhlbarg, who I had a terrific scene with. God, he's such a fine actor. To Rachel, obviously, reprising Christine Palmer, but also Chiwetel as Mordo and Benny Wong as Wong, obviously. We've been on a few journeys together since the last standalone film, but bringing Mordo and Christine back was great. And Wanda Maximoff, I mean, I had a tiny sort of back-to-back moment in the Battle of All Battles in Endgame, but I think that was squeezed out by many other people's back-to-back moments in the Battle of All Battles in Endgame. However, we are reunited, but pretty much meeting for the first time in this one. So it's cool.
I was really excited to get to work with Benedict. I'd never worked with him before. We had met a few times, but I'm such a fan of his work, and I was very excited to be on the inside of his process and to problem solve with him, to enjoy the struggles, enjoy the fun. It was also nice having someone who also uses their hands for power, so I wasn't the only one making it all up in my head. There was no punching. It was all just magic. And he and I both take that part of our job very seriously. And we really care about our movements and our choreography and what it means and what it looks like and how specific we want to be. And so it was nice to have that in another actor.
What excites me the most about, being part of the MCU is, getting to work with the actors that I, looked up to when I was younger, like Elizabeth Olsen. I mean, she is just beautiful, such a talented actress. And, Benedict Cumberbatch, Benedict Wong. It's pretty crazy that, I get to work alongside some of the best of the best.
Being back with Benedict was so great. I think he's one of the greatest working actors right now, and he's so fun, and this character is so delightful. I love the Doctor Strange he created. So it was just, more of the same wonderful stuff. And, he's just so dialed in and yet so playful, and it's the best of everything with him.
Yes, the actors came to Multiverse of Madness already having created their characters. Benedict Cumberbatch had created Doctor Strange in both his original Doctor Strange movie and in 6 subsequent Marvel movies. Same with Wanda. She had been in a number of Avengers movies, and also we are following her series, WandaVision. So the actors really knew their characters inside and out, and that was a different job for me as director, because now I didn't have to create them from scratch. I had to do a different job, which was presenting these characters with their altered selves. Because when you go into the multiverse, what you're actually doing is looking into a mirror, seeing either just a backwards version of yourself or a funhouse mirror version of yourself. The fact that these actors knew their characters so well enabled me to do that. They knew that by tweaking just the slightest aspect of their personality would be enough to create an interesting dynamic with their alter self.
Xochitl is so playful and committed and sort of has this freshness that she's bringing to the universe, and she's such a powerful character. Her superpowers sort of eclipse most others, if that's even possible, but somehow it is. So, and she just played it beautifully, and it was a pleasure to work alongside her, and her joie de vivre is infectious. She's always having so much fun on the set and doing TikTok videos, and Benedict tried his best to learn the same dances. She's such a good dancer. So we just had a lot of fun. Yeah. The sets are phenomenal in this film. They transport you. I mean, which is so important when you are working on green screen a lot to be able to walk into a room and have a fair amount already set up for you, so you don't just have to rely on your imagination. But they're so rich, and it's so fun just between takes or between scenes to wander around and just look at all the detail and the imagination that's gone into each set. What's it called? The sanctum. Is it the sanctum, right? The sanctum is extraordinary. Just beautiful. I didn't get to spend any time in there on the first one, so to get to go into it here on the second one, I was like, ooh, this one is really like in here. Okay. So yeah, it was just made it all that much more fun.
I think after writing Loki and now working on Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, I've realized what I love about these projects is their gigantic scope. It's big, great blockbuster science fiction, which I have a background in from working on Rick and Morty, and I have a little bit of a shorthand in. But like Stan Lee's great original Marvel comics, ultimately they're stories about the humanity of these superheroes and supervillains. And so I find that I really get to tell dramatic stories against the backdrop of some crazy, fun stuff. And so I guess I hope that's what's made me a good fit.
My experience working with the Marvel filmmakers and crew is fantastic. This is a company that really cares about its characters and the experience of the fan. That's number one. Other companies answer to shareholders. Marvel answers to the fan. That means they put story and integrity of characterization first, and it's a place that any director would want to work.
Yes, Wanda flies a lot. I fly more in this than I ever have, and luckily I have had a lot of experience flying. I've had a lot of experience on lots of different types of rigs. There were a few rigs I'd never experienced before on this film, and I have to say I do enjoy it. I don't like roller coasters, I don't like adrenaline rushes, but I feel very safe on these sets with our amazing stunt teams and rigging crews, and I really feel like I am more safe than I could ever be at Six Flags. And so I do enjoy flying, and I do get a thrill from it, and it's something that we've progressed, and there are ways we use her flying that we haven't seen before, and that was also interesting for me, the practicality, which I can't wait for people to see in the behind the scenes clips.
I think audiences can expect a whole bunch of impossibilities and craziness, huge, massive scale adventure in the multiverse, which will blow their minds, surprise them, arrest them, scare them, and surprise them again, and then possibly make them laugh and possibly even cry. It's really got something for everybody, I think. People who've followed this epic, biggest, I think, really in our culture, form of long-form entertainment that we have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's serial films will be, will be really enthralled. Bonkers. This film's bonkers.
I mean, I don't know what audiences are going to expect because I haven't seen the film, but what I hope audiences can expect is a new journey that opens up many more opportunities for the characters you love and for new characters. And I hope there's a thrill to it. I hope people can enjoy it in the theaters together without spoilers and be surprised by this journey. These characters go to new places that we haven't seen, and I just don't want that to be spoiled for anyone.
What can audiences expect when they see this film? I mean, this it's almost like, from what we know from WandaVision and No Way Home, it all converges and leads to this fantastical, kaleidoscopic, multiversal,
Whoa.
wild,
Ooh.
help me, roller coaster
Like I
Of a
like I have any
ride.
bigger words. I don't know. Crazy.
Fasten your seatbelts.
Yes.
That's
That's
it.
good. It's good.
I think audiences can expect to be surprised, and they're going to be asked to, you know, turn their brains on. I think, you know, that there's a lot to follow. It's a mind bender of a journey, which I think is what makes it so fun. I think the delight of seeing characters you think you know take these turns in another universe is just so exciting. The kind of what if playing out in movie version. Yeah, I think it's really fun, and it's dark. You know, it's definitely taking a much spookier, darker turn than the other films have, you know, under Sam's direction.
I hope that when the audience goes to see Multiverse of Madness, they really feel as though they've left our universe behind and have taken a wild ride through these other parallel multiverses. I want them to see things they've never seen before, hear things they've never heard, and have a really unique big screen movie experience.
Audiences see this film, they're going to see a thrilling continuation of the story of Stephen Strange that explores the cost of all the decisions he's made in his time as a sorcerer, and that also continues the journey of Wanda Maximoff as she reckons with her new power as the Scarlet Witch. And you know, the two of them, along with a bunch of other great characters, some old, some new, going on a really fun multiversal adventure.